Welcome back, folks. My name is LastKnownMeal. So yesterday CDPR released an official apology video talking about all of the problems that actually led up to the release of Cyberpunk 2077, and they also talk about the future updates and generally the future of the game. So let's dive into it. So yesterday, CD Projekt Red posted an official apology and our commitment video where the co-founder, or well, one of the co-founders of CD Projekt, Marcin Iwiński, goes into detail about everything which happened leading up to the release of the game and also what happened afterwards. So first things first, they apologized for everything which happened with the game. Management takes full responsibility for everything because they underestimated the development process, especially porting the game from PC to consoles. What initially was the plan and what they went with is that they wanted to create an epic PC version because their platform is primarily PC. CD Projekt Red started as a company which primarily makes PC games. Obviously, they branched out into consoles later on. So they wanted to finish the initial PC version and then after that continue to port the game onto consoles, and initial tests that they actually had with the QA department and also the management didn't show any issues. But there is one thing that we are taught in the production school that I finished, in university that I finished, is that on a project, expect everything to go wrong all the time. And that's something that I think more people should be guided by, because if you are ready for mistakes, any issues, you will potentially solve them faster than you would if you underestimate a project, especially a project of this size. So as I said, the management takes full responsibility, and I think there was a clear lack of communication between management and developers, and I do hope that in the future this communication between the management and the development team is better, because ultimately developers need good environment to make their games in. Healthy, good environment, because that's when they can function the most and be the most productive. But when you have issues like these, obviously things can be complicated. Next up, Marcin Iwiński said that they will do their best to regain the trust of the community, because let's face it, the trust in CD Projekt Red has been shaken after this game, and that's extremely okay with everyone. And yes, they do need to regain the trust of some people, because community is still generally divided on this. So we'll see how they're going to do it. Generally, the scope of the game is huge, and even though they were getting into this mindset that they want to create one of the best games ever, obviously problems can happen, especially if you underestimate the project like this, and especially if things are looking great in the beginning. Something is bound to happen. It's always like that. Now, the main problem, obviously, with porting the game from PC to console was improving in-game streaming, which basically feeds the engine on what you see on screen and basically all of the game mechanics. And the problem is, older, consoles don't have SSDs. They have hard drives, and in order to properly run this game, you kinda need an SSD. So obviously, just from that, even before the game came out, I had people saying like, okay, so how are they going to make this game actually work on a hard drive that old, especially because there are so many elements and custom objects in the game which are always visible, and because of the optimized loading screens, the game has to load all the time. And that's the thing with Cyberpunk. It's not that you don't have loading screens, it's that the game is constantly loading high textures, low textures, depending on where you're looking at, depending on the draw distance, depending on the distance to the object, and whatever. But still, those issues happened still on consoles, and because the hard drive couldn't properly load in those textures, what happened, and it is actually happening on PC as well. Even though I have this installed on NVMe drive, I still have, laggy or slow textures that pop in sometimes. And you will have like a low texture vehicle, and then 2 seconds later it's going to, be sharper in a sense. It's going to load in the high quality textures. And especially that was the problem on consoles, because it couldn't load. And the faster you go through the city, the faster you do something, the more things happen around you, obviously it starts throttling that hard drive and you run into those issues. And obviously they're still working on that in-game streaming so that the PlayStation 4 and Xbox One versions are actually better and optimized, and they're actually playing well, because that's one of the commitments. If you said a long time ago it's gonna be PlayStation 4, Xbox One, then you have to deliver. And I know people said like, why didn't they cancel? Well, I think that was too late, because I think that was it. Like, they thought the project was great, initial problems happened, first delay happened, then COVID happened, new issues, new problems, and then all of that was the result of this. But nevertheless, the management itself should have been more prepared to this. Regarding PlayStation, CDPR is working with Sony to bring the game back to Sony PlayStation Store. So I'm guessing that it could go back after the first proper update, or maybe the second, but it also depends on how much they actually manage to fix the game on that first proper update. But obviously the company wants to push those consoles so that they're back into the store, because they're losing money. Like, that's the thing, they are losing money. Now, let's talk about the review process itself, because Marcin Iwiński talks more about that, and I was someone who received a review copy, so I wanted to give you my overview on that. So, first things first, I had to sign an NDA, which is quite normal. Before actually signing an NDA, I read all of the documentation that CDPR actually sent. And I just want to make one thing clear, because people assume that someone is being paid to talk good about the game, and if we sign a contract we are forbidden from talking about bad things. No, that is absolutely not the case. Nowhere in that contract did CDPR say, oh, you cannot talk about this, or you cannot talk about that. I was free to talk about everything I wanted to talk about. Obviously, I had the PC version, and the review that I made is the experience I actually had in the game, so I still stand behind my review and everything I said in that review. So, regarding that, it was a problem that the keys didn't arrive earlier, because I believe at first they said like people are going to get keys 2 weeks before release, and that was great. Getting the key for 3 days before release is extremely complicated, and I didn't sleep much, so I could make that review. Next up, COVID and working from home. Now, obviously, in 2020, most companies had to switch to remote work. Now, generally, CDPR was kinda ready with that. They managed to actually prepare for the situation quite early, but still, the problem when you're working from home is that you don't have the same dynamic that you have with your colleagues when you are working in the same environment, and ideas can, be left behind, or maybe someone is going to say something very important about the game and it's going to be glossed over. So those things happen, sadly, and it's honestly up to the management to just say, all right, stop, let's actually let's redefine our structure a bit so that we have a clear communication from now on. Because I do hope this never happens again on a different project that they do. I really do hope, because Witcher 3 had those issues. They said they learned. Cyberpunk had those issues. They said they learned again, but I hope this time that is true, because CDPR makes huge games, and never, ever, ever underestimate your games. Never. Especially on that scope. Now, also, CD Projekt Red released an official update roadmap, which is a bit vague, they don't go too much into detail, but as we can see in 2021 at start, we are going to get a patch 1.1, so in about 9 to 10 days, and also a patch 1.2, which is going to be followed with a couple of weeks after this first update. After that, we are going to get free DLCs, and also multiple updates and improvements, so they're going to constantly have small and big patches going into the game. They're not going to stick to one schedule. Whenever they have an update ready or a patch, no matter big or small, they are going to release it. And also the free next-gen console update is coming at the end of the year, before 2022. Now, one thing we don't see here are expansions, and we still don't know if expansions are going to happen or not. Maybe they didn't want to say anything. Maybe if they said like, okay, we're gonna have the first expansion by the end of 2021 and they don't, more issues. So honestly, if they're working on a new expansion and they're keeping it under wraps and it may come out this year or may not, I'm fine with that. And honestly, I said long time ago, just when you're ready, like no need, absolutely no need, because we had seen that too much communication sometimes can give you mixed messages and signals and whatever, it can create new issues. So for now, no expansions have been mentioned except for free DLCs and of course patches. Honestly, that's an okay thing to do, because I think improving the game and adding some stuff into the game would be a first thing to do before you actually jump onto anything else, because no one is going to buy an expansion until like the base game is fixed, and obviously expansions take more time. And I'm okay with them just postponing it so that when the expansion comes out, it doesn't have the same issues as the base game of Cyberpunk 2077. Obviously, when new patches and updates come in, I will cover it, but this is everything we have so far. Now, words are just words. I want to see the action now, and we're definitely gonna be keeping a lookout on what goes on with the future of this game. Thank you so much for watching. Tell me down below, what do you think about that? Like, what does CDPR have to do to regain your trust? Like, tell me down below. I'm really interested to hear what you have to say, especially about this roadmap as well, and what do you think about them actually postponing the expansion, or well, the first one for like 2022. Obviously, regarding multiplayer, we're not going to see it anytime soon, as I said, probably until 2023, but we'll see what happens. But that's it, this is LKM signing out. As I said, don't forget to smash that like and subscribe button for more Cyberpunk 2077 video, and join our growing community on Twitter and Discord. I also do have a Patreon page. If you were looking for an extra way to support the channel, you can do it through the link below. And huge thanks to my current Patreon supporters. This is LKM signing out, and I'll talk to you in the next video. Bye bye.